The garden was Margaret's sanctuary. It had started as a small patch of earth behind her cottage, but over the years it had grown into a sprawling oasis of color and life. Every flower, every tree, every blade of grass was a tribute to her late husband, James, who had loved nature with a passion that bordered on reverence. James had been a botanist, his hands always stained with soil, his pockets filled with seeds. He had taught Margaret to see the world through his eyes, to appreciate the delicate beauty of a blooming rose, the resilience of a sapling breaking through concrete, the quiet majesty of an ancient oak. When he passed away unexpectedly, Margaret felt as though the world had lost its color. The garden was her way of keeping him close. She planted his favorite flowers, dahlias, lilies, and sunflowers, and tended to them with the same care and devotion she had once shown him. As the garden grew, so did her connection to James. She would sit among the flowers, her fingers brushing against the petals, and talk to him as if he were there. The garden became a living memorial, a place where her grief could bloom into something beautiful. Over the years, the garden became a part of the community. Neighbors would stop by to admire the flowers, children would play among the trees, and couples would stroll through the paths, hand in hand. Margaret welcomed them all, finding solace in their joy, but no matter how many people visited, the garden always felt like a private conversation between her and James. As Margaret grew older, her steps slowed, and her hands grew less steady, but she never stopped tending to the garden. It was her lifeline, her reason to get up in the morning. Even when her body ached and her vision blurred, she would kneel in the soil, planting new seeds, pruning old branches, and whispering to James. One day Margaret's neighbor Elinor found her sitting in the garden, her face tilted toward the sun. "Margaret," Elinor said gently, "let me help you. You've done so much. It's time to rest." Margaret shook her head. "The garden is all I have left of him," she said. "I can't let it go." Elinor sighed, but didn't argue. She knew the garden was more than just plants and flowers. It was Margaret's heart, her love, her grief, all made tangible. When Margaret passed away, the garden seemed to sense her absence. The flowers drooped, the leaves turned brown, and the trees grew silent. Within weeks, the once vibrant oasis was a shadow of its former self. The neighbors tried to revive it, but no amount of water or care could bring it back to life. It was as if the garden had been sustained not by soil and sunlight, but by Margaret's love. At Margaret's funeral, Elinor stood before the gathered crowd and spoke about the garden. Margaret created this place as a tribute to James, she said, her voice trembling, but it was also a testament to her own strength, her own love. She poured her heart into every flower, every tree, and in doing so she kept James alive. Now that she's gone, the garden has withered, but their love remains. It's in the memories we carry, the stories we tell, and the beauty we create in our own lives. As the crowd dispersed, Elinor walked through the garden one last time. She picked a single sunflower, its petals dry and brittle, and placed it on Margaret's grave. "You're with him now," she whispered. "Rest well, my friend." In the years that followed, the garden became a legend in the town. People would visit the overgrown patch of land and tell stories of Margaret and James, of the love that had created something so beautiful. And though the garden itself was gone, its legacy lived on, a reminder that love, like nature, is eternal.